Example 3, solve, and this is where we're now putting all of these ideas together. So step number 1, and I'm just telling you this verbally, step number 1 is to combine things on the left on the right that are alike. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. On the right side, I've got an x, but I've got a 4 and a 15. Both of those do not have an x. It's a positive 4 and a positive 15, so we're looking at a positive 19. On the left-hand side, you've got a positive 2 and a positive 7, so you're going to get it on the right of 9. Sorry, on the left-hand side, you're going to get a number 9. Now, I said the word right, and the reason I said the word right is because whenever I write down the numbers that don't have the x, I like to put that on the right, and the numbers with the x I put on the left. So here's my equal sign. What I mean by that, and just looking at this side, 4 and 15 gave me 19, and the negative 3x is right there. I wrote the x on the left and the 19 on the right. Now it's a positive 19, so I'll have to put a positive. Now here I have a negative 5x, so I write that. And the 2 plus 7 is 9, it's a positive 9, so I'll write that. So here we have the x, then the number, the x, then the number. So that's typically how I will write things. Step number 1 is combine like terms. So we've done that. We've combined the like terms. The 4 and the 15 was 19. The 2 and the 7 was 9. Step number 2 is to move over the smaller or more negative x by adding or by subtracting. For this question, they're both negative, but the negative 5 is more negative. It is a lower number or a more left number. So I'm going to move that. So to move an x, you can add or subtract it. It's a negative 5, so I will add a 5x. I'll do that to the left and to the right to keep everything balanced. And then negative 5x and a positive 5x will be gone. So here's my equal sign. On the left, I've got a 9. On the right, I've got a 5x and a negative 3x. There's more good guys. There's 5. There's 3 bad. There's more good guys. There's 2 more. So I've got a 2x. And then we got a 19. Okay, keep continuing on here. You probably don't know that, but I've actually paused this, and there's a kid crying. So here we go. We need to get the x alone. To get the x alone now, so again, step number 1, combine like terms. Step number 2, move over the smaller or more negative x. I did that by adding it. And then once you get that, you will always get an x that's a 2-step. And so we need to get rid of the 19 first, then the 2 to get the x alone. So to get the x alone, I will minus the 19 because you always want to get rid of the add or subtract first. 19 minus 19 is 0, so those are gone. On the right side, you got the 2x. On the left, you've got a negative 19 and a positive 9, which is a negative 10. And then lastly, this is a times by 2, so you will divide by 2 and divide by 2. So that's gone, meaning x is equal to negative 10 over 2, which is negative 5. So recap that. Combine the like terms on the right, combine the like terms on the left. I got 19 and I got a 9, and I wrote those numbers on the right side and the x's on the left. Next, move over the smaller or more negative x. So I added the 5x because this was a negative 5 and that was the more negative one. So I added the 5x over to this side. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2. And now it turned to a 2-step equation. You get rid of the add or subtract first. So I subtracted the 19 over to here. And then there was a times by 2, so I divided by 2. Moving over to B now. This can look, I understand, this could look very intimidating. So what I like to do first is to just draw a line down here to kind of divide this up. It gives me kind of a starting point. I can't draw a straight here line. Well, that's the best I can do. On the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, we want to combine like terms. So I see that there's a 4x and a negative 7x. Those are both x's. 4 minus 7 is going to be negative 3. So I'm going to write that, and I'm going to write the x first and then the number, which in this case is a 12. And on the left side, I see a couple actually. I see a 2x and a negative 3x. And then I see a 5 and I see a negative 3. So I'm going to do the x's first because I have to write that on the left. A 2x and a minus 3x is a minus 1x. And then a 5 minus 3 is a positive 2. There we go. Now what I want to do is move the smaller or more negative x. Now I've got a negative 1x and a negative 3, so negative 3 is the more negative one. So to get rid of it, you have to add or subtract it over. Because it's a negative, I will add it. I'll add the 3x to both sides to keep everything balanced. Negative 3x and positive 3x get me a 0. So on the right-hand side, I've got a 12. On the left-hand side, I've got the 2, and I've got a 3x and a negative 1x, which is a positive 2x. And there's no symbol here. Oh, it's a plus 2. There we go. Now this turns to a two-step equation. We need to get the x alone. You have to do that by getting rid of any add or subtract first, which is backwards BEDMAS. So I will get rid of the plus 2 by minusing it on both sides. So those are gone. So on the right side, 12 minus 2 is 10. And on the left side, I've got a 2x. And then this is a 2 times x. It's a times, so I'll do the opposite of times, which is divide. So I'll divide both sides. So those are gone, leaving with just an x on the left, and on the right, 10 over 2 is 5. So there's a lot going on in that question. Step number 1, combine like terms. So on the right side, a 4 and a negative 7 were alike, so I made that a negative 3x. On the left, I had a couple things that were alike. The 5 minus 3 was 2, and the 2x minus 3x which was a negative 1x. So step number 1 was combining like terms. Step number 2, move the smaller or more negative x. So negative x, negative 3x was the more negative one. So I added a 3x to cancel it out, but I had to do that to the left side as well. 3 minus 1 is 2. And then it turned into a two-step question. I minus the 2 over here, which is 10, and then I divided the 2, which became 5. So I'll zoom out here. These are getting a lot more complicated. There's only one more thing we need to do, but essentially, if you can do a question like this, then you should be okay. This is one of the most complicated ones. We just will add brackets, which is an easy thing to do. There is a couple tricky parts, but it's relatively straightforward, and then they all turn into things like this. So if you can do these ones, then you should be okay. If you have trouble, then you need to be practicing in the homework as well.